So in the last video, we were in Matthew chapter 5, and Jesus was speaking concerning divorce, and his message may have been toward men, especially in his culture, because his culture relied heavily on the law of Moses, and they still do in many parts of that country. So that the male figure dominantly rules, and what he says goes. It's so different from our culture in America that even the parents choose, and like I was saying, in some parts of that country, some things have changed in their culture, but not a lot. But some parents are able to choose who their children marry as adults, and some of their children are getting married as early teens. So it is really different, but Jesus was still referring to both men and women in marriage. That if you left your marriage, if you got a divorce, and it was not because of sexual something that your husband or wife has done sexually outside of the marriage, then you were causing that person to commit adultery, or you yourself would be committing adultery if you went out, got married to someone else, and you would be causing the other person that you're married to commit adultery. And so now, as we continue in Matthew chapter 19, verse 4 through 6, Jesus continues on about marriage. Matthew chapter 19, verse 4 through 6 says, "Have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female?" First of all, Jesus wanted to make sure that was cleared up, to say that there were two people there in the beginning. God made them male and female. And that's something that I'm not going to get on, as far as people that feel like their identity is mistaken, things like that. That's not what this particular topic is about. But he says, this is what Jesus says, that from the beginning, God made them male and female. And he also said, verse 5, "For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh." And this cleaving and these two becoming one flesh is symbolic for them, kind of in a way, losing selfishness and pride as to who should be able to do things separately, aside from being a couple. Say, for example, as far as decisions, as far as who is going to pay bills and things like that. Who's going to, what the children should wear. God is saying it should not just be left up to the woman to have the right to say what their children should wear. That a man should be able to voice his opinion, and then couples should determine their conclusion based on biblical principles when it comes to situations like this. They shouldn't just say, well, this is fashionable, so my children should wear this, or this isn't fashionable, or I want to do this the way my mom did it. No, it's not about whether or not our moms did things a certain way, or whether or not something is trendy or fashionable, or whether or not the child will be embarrassed. This is about biblical principles and whether or not God would be pleased with it. So he said couples should come into a marriage as if they have one mind. And the only way a couple can have one mind is through the scriptures. Is both of them agreeing to say, okay, the scriptures are right about every situation. Our thoughts and our opinion are irrelevant when it comes to the scriptures. Wherefore, as verse 6, wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. Where therefore God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. And when he says this, he's speaking of human obligations instead of spiritual obligations, of a man being separated from his wife. And also, you can look at the covenant of what God has done as far as what he said in chapter verse 4 says, have you not known that it was like this in the beginning, that he made male and female? And Jesus is saying, guess what? He made male and female to be together in the beginning. And when that covenant was established, guess what? That should not be torn asunder. He said, let that covenant of male and female being together not be separated, because God created it to be that way. Verse 8 says, he saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts. I skipped a couple of verses, but this is just to further explain what's going on and what was happening in that age and now in this age also. Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives, but from the beginning it was not so. And that's what's happening with a lot of people today, especially the women that are being puffed up with a lot of pride and saying, well, I don't have to take this anymore and I don't have to take that anymore. And they're being influenced by the wrong people instead of turning to the word of God to see what the word of God says. They're turning to societal norms and what the secular people are saying and saying, well, I don't have to deal with this, instead of looking into the word of God. Because Jesus said it wasn't like this from the beginning. And he said Moses only made that law because of the hardness, the stiffness. And this is something that Jesus said. Jesus said that the love of many will wax cold in the end times because they love their wickedness. And we're going to continue in the next part to finish off